About 5 seconds after I was born, the doctors made a mistake that for the next 16.5 years would cause me intense emotional and psychological trauma. It's not the doctor's fault. My parents made the same mistake just a few seconds later. The mistake that they made was thinking that I was a girl. If you were to ask me about my gender now, I'd say the same thing I said when I was just 3 years old. I'm a boy, obviously. Still, when I was a toddler, my parents would tell me, no, you're a girl, that I would just grow out of it. And despite this, I don't think they understood it, but they weren't trying to force me into this box that I didn't want to be in. They were trying, like most loving parents, to help their 3-year-old understand the world by telling them what is right and what is wrong. And my gender was wrong. I was a girl. So I tried to be the little girl they always wanted. But I had teachers and parents of friends and neighbors and random people on the street sometimes stop me and say, are you a boy or a girl? And my answer always came out just a little bit choked. Like I couldn't quite say it because I couldn't quite believe it. And by the time I got to high school, I knew that something had to change. So I had this long, brown, curly hair that I absolutely hated. And I went to a hairdresser, and when she asked me what kind of a cut I wanted, what kind of a short cut do you want, I said, like a boy. It was foreshadowing, in a way, because I didn't yet know what that meant. I didn't know what it meant just to want to look like a boy, or what it meant to want to be a boy. But I'd long since figured out that when I saw a boy and I thought, wow, he has great hair, I wasn't attracted to him. I wanted to look like him. Later that year, my girlfriend at the time asked me to go to the prom with her, and I told my mom, and I said, Mom, I want to wear a tux. And she said, okay, how about a pantsuit? And I said, that's not the same thing, Mom. And she said, okay, so let's go shopping. And so we went to these stores, and they were all pantsuits, and I felt uncomfortable. It was like if you're a guy trying to wear a dress, and if you're a girl trying to wear, like, I don't know, boxers or something. But it felt wrong. It felt incorrect. I didn't feel like me. And so finally, after going to 3 or 4 stores, she takes me to this discount formal wear store called Simms. And I was amazed. It was incredible. It was the only store I'd ever seen where the men's section was larger than the women's. And even though she kept glancing over at the women's section, she helped me find this white tux jacket and a black shirt and black pants and a tie. And I had never felt so comfortable. I never felt more handsome in anything. And when we told the salesman who had been helping us that that's what we were going to get, he said, this young man is going to look great in that. This young man? This young man is going to look great in that. It was the best compliment I'd ever received in my life because it was the only one that recognized who I was before I did. And I saw my mom next to me about to correct him. But before she did, she glanced at me and she saw this huge smile on my face. I was so happy. And she remembered, I think, that before I'd even been conceived, she had just wanted a baby that was happy and healthy. Before anything else, before she knew I was a girl, before she thought that I was going to be wearing a prom dress, she just cared that her baby was happy and healthy. And I think that was the moment where she realized that I was as what I was wearing. And I saw her hold herself back, and her shoulders just sunk a little bit into comfort. And I saw the corners of her mouth turn up, and she just said, yeah. And we laughed about it later, and then she drove my prom date and I to the prom. About a year after that, I went to a conference called True Colors. It's this wonderful conference, and I went with all my friends, and we went to this workshop called Trans 101. And I had no idea what trans was. It was this abstract concept that didn't apply to me at the time. And we go to this workshop, and I am listening, and I'm exploding inside because there's other people who feel the same way that I feel. There are other people who get it. There are other people like me, and more importantly than that, there was a word. There was a word that could explain why I felt out of place in a dress or pantsuit or diamond earrings or long hair or a 2-piece swimsuit. There was a word for it. And I'm an English teacher now, and I understand, and I want to make sure that you guys all understand, having a word to describe yourself is so important. Being able to express our identities is critical, and sometimes what you need is to have a label. So after this workshop, I told all my friends to call me Leo for the rest of the day because I wanted to be a boy and because I really liked Titanic. And they did. And I came out at school publicly about 8 months later, and it was Cultural Diversity Day at the high school, and there was a panel that the GSA was doing on coming out, and I was on that panel, and I decided that instead of just talking about coming out, this big abstract concept, I was going to do it. I was going to come out. And there were about 3 English classes in there, and there were the teachers of those classes, the GSA advisors, a number of other teachers who had come in, administrators were there, and I have very little recollection of what actually happened, but I came out, and to my surprise, the reaction from people was not disgust, as I expected. I'd expected the worst. I'd braced for the worst, but the reactions were mostly a combination of admiration and secondhand pride, because they understood that what I was saying wasn't just that I was transgender. They were understanding that I had found part of myself, and that resonated with them. About a month later, after beating myself up over the disappointment I was sure that this revelation would impart on them, I came out to my parents. I was so scared that I was going to chicken out that I had to work myself up into a fury and yell it at them. And despite the fact that I had literally just yelled at them for a good 5 minutes, the reaction was, okay, if this is you, and we love you. They accepted that they'd made a mistake with my gender, and they helped me work towards fixing that mistake. They let me re-answer the question, such a basic question, are you a boy or a girl? And yet I had thought so long and so hard about this question. I had gone through bouts of depression and mania. I had hurt myself physically and oppressed myself mentally. And now, finally, covered in bruises and scars and blood and tears, I could be me. I could be me. See, I am a man, and I'm transgender. The two are not mutually exclusive. I am just as much a man as any other man you see on the street. That doesn't change based on other people's ire or disgust. Nobody's identity is changed by other people's ire and disgust, no matter how strongly it is expressed or how often it is expressed. Nobody's identity is affected by what other people see or say. And transgender people, when they're allowed to express themselves, are happy. There's actually studies that have been done about this. It seems like basic logic. If you're not attacked and ridiculed for who you are happier. If you're being attacked and ridiculed, you are not as happy. This is basic logic, but they had to do a study on it to prove it. Because transgender people are often associated with mental health issues. But it turns out that those mental health issues don't come from the transgender person. They come from the reaction of the people around them. I was really lucky. My family, my friends, my school all reacted positively. They all accepted me and supported me in the best ways that they could. But that is not the case for many people. For many people, the reaction is negative, and because of that negative reaction, among trans people, there is a 41% attempted suicide rate. 41%. 41% of trans people have or will attempt suicide in their lifetime. That's about 10 times the national average. I was lucky. I was supported. I had my friends support me. I had the love of my parents and my brothers, and yet I am still part of that 41%. I was 22 years old. I had just graduated college, and I was afraid because I knew the statistics. And I was so convinced that no matter what job or place I found, that I would still be attacked and ridiculed in the same blatant and subtle ways that I had been attacked and ridiculed ever since I had come out. I'd given up. And I thought that I was going to lose everything. I thought that I had lost everything. And my mind sent me these words: don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. It repeated in my mind, don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. And I swallowed a bottle of Aleve and collapsed in the bathroom. I don't remember much of the next couple of days. Snippets here and there, a peanut butter sandwich, a narrow bed. My parents came and took me home. They took me to a therapist, and about a week later, I was on the floor of my bedroom crying. I'd given up. My mom came in, and she held me while I cried, and I told her I was useless, and she said, "You've been through so much, and you've never let it stop you. And if I know you, this won't either." And I was lucky. My mom was right. About 2 weeks later, I had a job, and about 4 months later after that, I was in a master's program to become a teacher, and I am today. I was allowed to answer the question. So many people had told me that I was a girl, and I agreed because I didn't know what else to do, but then I found out that somebody else had questioned their identity. And I started thinking about mine and what it means. And this has been my big question, and it's not the same as everybody else's question. Our identities are so multifaceted that we were almost never answering the same question. But this was mine, and I got to re-answer it because I had the love and support of those around me. But so often, people are not allowed to change their answer, whether it's one that they came up with, whether it's just a part of their answer, or if it's something that somebody else gave them that they didn't choose. And so often, these ideas, these parts of our identity become places for us to be hurt. And so many people are hurt to the point where they attempt suicide. Their deaths weigh heavily on me. My suicide attempt came after I had come out, after I'd been living in a way that I felt was good for a long time. Yet still, the reality of what transgender people face day to day hit me. I was aware of everything. I was loved and supported. I was so lucky to be who I was, that I was allowed to be who I am. And because of that love and support from the people around me, I'm here today. And I constantly wonder if I still would be here today if I had not been allowed that chance, if I had not been allowed to question my identity. Would I have made it through high school, through college? Could I be me if I had to present as something other than me every day of my life? Could you be you if you had to be somebody else? I've only attempted suicide once. I was lucky. And I'm here today, and I am not just surviving, I am not just living, I am thriving, and I am me. So my message for you is this. Question your identity, and let others question theirs. If we allow ourselves to express ourselves and our identities in ways that make us feel good, and if we can allow other people to express their identities in ways that make them feel good, we can create a world where nobody needs to stop thinking and just do. Thank you.